So I am so excited, first of all, to be here. We've got so many great speakers. And I want to tell you that I have been practicing our first speaker's name. So if I get it incorrectly, please feel free to correct me. So Dr. Thomas Engblom, did I say that right?
Correct.
Okay. He's an account executive at National Bank, and he's had experience in real estate brokerage, property management, and HOA financial management. That sounds so overwhelming. It seems his passion is really as an HOA community association builder of relationships, building stronger bonds between the association and the owners, which I think is so great. I mean, I live in a neighborhood with association, and that's such a great thing that you're doing. You're also an expert in job satisfaction. So everybody get your notepads out because there's a lot to learn. So take it away. Thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me. Let's see. You should be able to see everything right now. Let's start. Okay. Okay, you should be able to see everything. Just a quick disclaimer, as previously stated, I've been in the association management industry for 40 years, and I started when I was 5. So I'm very well known at what I do, and I supervised approximately 18 of the largest buildings in Chicago for 20 years. And then for the last 20 years, I've been a association banker that I cover 7 states. And during that time, I earned my doctorate degree, but I have all the credentials that you can see listed there below about job satisfaction or about association management. And ultimately, what I realized, especially in the association management industry and in life in general, there's a lot of burnout. So one of the things that I did for my dissertation was to look at job satisfaction and education and how it affects everyone. And one of the components that I think that you get into in job satisfaction, work, burnout, stress, anything along that time, is we're all addicted to the phone. And the majority of people, you can't live without your phone. I mean, think about everything that's on your phone. You can't turn it off. It has your bank accounts, your credit cards, your alerts, everything of that type. And usually when I give this presentation, I always ask people to turn their phone off. And if they don't turn their phone off during the presentation and it rings, then I have them pay me a $10 fee for that. And because I can't monitor everyone that's in the room, I'll split that cost with the individual next to them. But you need to turn your phone off. You need to decompress. You need to get away from it. And during the presentation, I always want people to be positive and get different components. So in your life in general, think about what you're happy about. List the 3 positive components that make you feel good. Maybe it's swimming in the pool, watching a football game, just reading a book. What are the negative components? Long work hours. What makes you feel happy? These are all components that can drive you to get through a certain aspect of what's happening. So, what are signs of burnout that you get into? And when you think about just stress in itself, going back to the phone comment, 80% of people in America sleep with their phone on. What's so important that you need your phone on that long? And in the first 10 minutes, when everybody gets up, 92% of people look at their phone. So they get no positive component about how to deal with the situation and how they get to the aspect of how to get away from that stress. So what are signs of burnout that you have? Well, it starts in many different ways. And in a recent survey, 52% of those that were polled reflected that they feel burned out because of all the aggravation, the grief, everything that goes on with them every day. 64% of people felt that they were burned out at work. Why? Physically, mentally, emotionally, they're overworked. Everybody's trying to stretch the dollar, the economy. I mean, lists can go on and on and on. And do you feel dreadful going to work, or are you not having fun? What is the components that make you feel that way? And when you start dissecting this a little bit, there's 5 phases of burnout, and we'll go through each one, but essentially they're very self-explanatory about what they are and how they affect you and the components that go into that particular phase. So phase 1 is the honeymoon. And when you think about it, anytime you start a new job, you volunteer, you do something new, you're really excited about, you want to step up, you want to be involved, you want to be a part of that component, that activity, you want to make friendships. And the problem that you run into is you haven't learned to develop the key phrase that I talk about all the time, and that's about saying no. We all have to learn about how to say no. It doesn't make you a bad person if you say no. I mean, you have to be able to juggle all the balls that are in your task and your field and your daily routine with your family, work. How does it all come out? Well, now you go into phase 2, the onset of stress. What happens with it? Well, maybe you have a change in appetite. Maybe, you're grinding your headache. If you have a headache, that could be a certain way. Lack of social attending. Personally, I carry stress in the back of my neck. So when my neck gets tight, I know that, wow, there's something going on. What do I want? How do I deal with that onset of stress? How do I get away from it? Do I become irritable? Is it better to keep my mouth closed and not say anything, where people could be just, very, very upset mentally or emotionally? And you can see that. I mean, road rage, or maybe someone at a shopping center cutting you off in the parking lot, shopping cart, even just all the different components of when it starts. So then you get into phase 3. What is phase 3 that you get into? Well, you are now, you have a different type of attitude. You don't want to be a part of the bigger picture. You're late to work, you're running behind, you don't have the proper tools in your quiver that you need to have resources at, and how you're going to address it and how it's going to continue. And what happens with this, once you start with phase 1, you go to phase 2, you go to phase 3, what happens? It starts growing larger and larger and larger. And now maybe you're getting physical illness. Maybe your ankle hurts, your neck, your arm. What is driving that stress? How can you release it? What is the component of that aspect that you're dealing with? Now you're getting into phase 4. Phase 4 is very, very difficult. And you're not only are you dealing with your physical symptoms now maybe you can't sleep at night. Now you're taking sleeping pills. Maybe you're going to alcohol. Maybe it's something that's going to make you release that, and you feel that stress is going to go away by drinking alcohol or taking a pill. But ultimately, what are you doing? You're just pushing it down the avenue, so to speak, and you're not addressing the true component that you have that is part of the bigger question that is the issue here. And then ultimately, what you get into? Well, you get into the last phase. And this is very, very important, where now you have everything combined. You have depression, you're burned out, maybe you don't want to go to work, you're sleeping late, you don't want to get out of bed. I mean, it's a very, very serious problem. And what's interesting about the research, when you look at this, many, many people are burned out, and they don't even know that they're burned out because they just think that's the way life is and how you deal with that particular situation. But if you feel that you're depressed, if you feel that you have physical, emotional, or mental problems, you have to address it. You have to talk to someone. And I kind of changed the slide up a little bit, but I talked about the people that are around you. When you think about this, the 10 most important people that you deal with, they could be family, they could be friends, they could be coworkers. And one of the components that you want to do is you want to have a good foundation that you can talk about this, you can release it, you can have it go. And being a life coach as well, I can tell you one of the components of being a life coach is you let people deal with it in the component that you let them talk and be a part of the motivation. And in fact, one of the books that I wrote that's coming out very soon, it's called Working at Home, Making It Work for You. And I talk about how important it is to have that support group in you, working from home, where you don't have the physical support that you normally would, or that you can walk in the office next door and get some advice or direction. So how do you prevent burnout? Is looking at the next slide. And it's very, very simple. What you have to do is you have to take and relax. You have to have downtime. You have to get enough sleep. You have to know to shut your phone off. I mean, I always get a grin when I go out to dinner and I see someone at a restaurant with several people and they're talking and everyone's looking at their phone. You gotta unplug from these devices and be a part of relaxation. Leave your work at home. You have to know when to shut down. That's a critical component. You know, in the industry that I'm in, these managers are on call 24 hours a day. They get burned out. In fact, I just wrote an article about a manager candle burning it at both ends. You need to know to shut your phone off. You need to know that it's not a priority. Don't answer your email before 9 o'clock in the morning and after 5 o'clock. Email doesn't necessarily mean emergency. You got to find life balance. Focus on your control. Focus on what's important. Take a break. Take and deal with the situation. Know your boundaries. Know that I'm only going to work 9 to 5. Everything else can wait. We have an emergency phone number for you to call, or someone else should be on call and you rotate it. Talk about it. It's a good stress reliever. This is one of the key components that I'm very, very aware of and I support is everything should be based on a schedule. Prioritize. Set your goals, set your boundaries. My comment is always that if it's not in my phone, it's not going to happen. Everything is done in my Outlook, and you have to be a part of the system to understand how to deal with the aspect of time management. Job satisfaction is so important because it relates to stress. And when you think about if you're not satisfied at work, that's going to carry over to stress. If you're not happy at work at home, that's going to carry to work. So you have to have a degree of job satisfaction. And one of the most important things that I could tell you about job satisfaction is that the more prepared you are, the more educated you are, the better you're going to have a life balance. One of the big pushes that I have all the time, and this is where people get in the issues and problems, they take it personal. This is just a diagram from the 4 agreements, a great book that you can read, a quick read, and it talks about all the different components of how you should be impeccable with your word. But I always talk about don't take anything personal, let it go. And that's when people get upset, they can't sleep, and that leads to burnout. Usually, if we had a longer period, we would do a quick test, but basically you cannot multitask. If you multitask, it will take you twice as long, you'll make twice as many mistakes, and you'll make errors. So one of the components is it reverts back to that schedule. And that schedule is to plan everything out. And you cannot multitask. It's a proven scientific fact that you cannot do that. This particular area here is based on Parmental rule. And this is basically what a lot of people that pursue their PhD follow to a certain point. And it's very, very good. As I already said, put everything in your calendar, start in the morning. You always address large projects. And what you want to do is you want to give yourself a reward. So, the most challenging, worst thing that you want to do it the first thing in the morning and try never, ever to work more than 25 minutes without taking a break. Because what you'll do is you'll work slower, you won't be as productive, and you want to be more efficient from that. And then I live also by the 1-3-5 rule. And I supervised at one point in time, I had over 200 and some people that work for me. And what I dealt with all the time is, and today I supervise a few people. I want you to do one important thing today. Doesn't matter what it is. Do one important thing, because what it's going to do, it's going to make you feel positive. It's going to make you feel rewarded. It's going to make you feel from a certain component that you accomplished something. And then after that, do 3 smaller, less critical, crucial components that will make you more efficient and productive, because you're going down the tier. And again, if you have it on your calendar, if you write it down, if you have a goal, this will make you more productive, more efficient. It'll get you away from burnout. You won't feel the stress. You won't have the aggravation. And then ultimately 5 smaller things over time. This you can go online and you can actually see the type of individual that you are. And I'm a big proponent, and I actually give lectures on the DISC system. And it talks about how you can, the type of person that you are in the particular zone in the area. And if you're direct, inspiring, and supportive, cautious. And based on that, you'll be able to give yourself a direction on how to deal with other people, or more importantly, how to be more productive. This is very simple stuff that I talked about here about being productive. Just, you don't have to be intelligent, just facts to make you smarter. I didn't follow through on the 10 because it would take up too much time. But in the end, what I did put in here are 2 links, one to see if you're burned out, a self-test, and then a test to take the DISC assessment. And I'm 2 minutes early, so I'll open it up for questions if you want.
So I have a couple of questions.
Yeah, I do too.
So you talked about sleeping with your phone. Now, I mean, back in the old days when we had landlines, someone could call at 2 a.m. if there was an emergency. So I still keep my phone on. Now that we don't have a landline, I keep my phone on, but I put it in sleep mode. So I don't hear any text or anything after 10:30. And I think for someone to get a hold of me on the phone, I think they have to call like twice in a row before they get through.
Mm-hmm.
So is that acceptable, or should I really be turning my phone completely off?
No, that's acceptable. I mean, I have an Apple Watch, and the same thing happens for me. At 9:45, it tells me to go to sleep, and it goes in sleep mode. So I don't even hear it. But again, I personally shut my phone off because, what's so important, that you need to be contacted at 2 a.m. that it can't wait. If it's a medical emergency, should they be calling you or should they be calling 911? That's how I look at it. And, I'm on the road quite a bit. So what good would it do for someone to call me and say, hey, I got this problem? No, you deal with it the next morning. That's how I believe, because I think sleep is imperative and you shouldn't allow it to be disruptive. Because if you get that call at 2 a.m, what's going to happen? Now you're going to be up. You're not going to be able to sleep. Now it gets into your different types of sleep modes, and it creates a problem for you.
I got a question on that. I know that for moms specifically, they don't want to turn their phone off, because maybe, like, I have a son in college and he called me once at 2 a.m. He was having a panic attack, so there's this insecurity about turning off the phone at night. So how do
Mhm.
you talk to people about that?
Well, again, I mean, it in certain situations, or I mean, what I would do again, I mean, in that particular case, you're sometimes having a panic attack. Maybe in your environment, it's good that you keep the phone on, but the majority of people don't need to keep their phone on. They don't need to answer email at 10 o'clock at night or 2 o'clock in
Email
the
for sure.
morning.
No.
And yeah, they need to shut
Yeah,
off.
I
They
got you.
need to decompress because
Yeah.
when your son called you that night, how upset were you? And could you go back to sleep? You probably
No,
couldn't
I
go
threw
back to
up. I
sleep.
mean, that's like a
Yeah,
mother's nightmare. He was crying.
right,
But, my point being that it's almost like there's for parents that worry or whatever, it's an illogical thing to turn off the phone. But what I'm hearing you say is that the majority of people aren't parents with that problem. It's people who just keep their phone on, and the insecurity is probably I'm going to be left out or something like that. So I also wanted to ask you, because I noticed on your last slide there's a brain. And so what I'm hearing you say is like, first of all, the stress elicits a lot of cortisol, right? The stress
hmm,
hormone. So it seems like self-awareness and intention are like two really important things to implement these things, right? Because stress is
correct.
sort of an automatic. Yeah. So intention, you got to be so intentional to turn off your phone. And it's just so successful when you can be intentional like that because it doesn't just happen, right?
Right. And think about going back to being productive in the work. And I didn't use the word, but think about if you give yourself a reward for doing a smaller task, now what happens? You release endorphins. You feel good about
That's right.
yourself. So, you give yourself a cup of coffee. Maybe you give yourself a little piece of chocolate, something to
Yeah.
make you feel positive and good about yourself and not be stressed out. And I give examples in the industry that there was something I had to do that I just dreaded. I had to do it every time financials came out. I had to give a financial report, and to me, it was just a waste of time. But you know what? After you got the system down, I was very efficient and productive. And what did
Yeah.
it teach me? It taught me
Yeah.
more about that financial condition that I ever needed to know of, and it put me on top of the game. So and again, I think if you put everything in your phone, you become goal orientated. And by being
Yeah.
goal orientated, you're going to be more productive and more efficient. And you
Right.
look at people that wait till the last minute and try to get something done, and look at the stress level that they have.
Mm-hmm. It's high. One of the things on phase 4 burnout, I'm a coach and I got a call from a company once saying that they were burned out from empathy. And when I went in and, investigated, it was true because they were using the empathy that's emotional. And so how do you deal with burnout? Like I love the steps, but how do you deal with like specific things like that requires kind of change in the way you behave?
I think you have to look at each situation different, and you have
Yeah.
to get to the root of the problem and find out what the cause of the burnout is and how they can address it, whether as it globally or individually. Because
Mm-hmm.
again, one size doesn't fit all, and
Right.
everything's unique and different, and you have to approach it from that component. And
Mm-hmm.
that's what'll make a difference for this.
Yeah. So where do I noticed you said you lecture, which sounds very academic. Where do you lecture? Do you travel a
So
lot and do that?
So I'm part of a international organization. Well, there's several, but the one that I get into quite a bit is called Community Associations Institute, and it's an international organization for the education of condominium managers, board members, and what they call business partners. And they have 64 chapters. They're an international organization. So
Wow.
I go around the country and I lecture on coursework for association financing, lending.
Yeah.
They have one designation that they have to achieve, and the passing ratio for the first time is 50%. So I create a 4-hour review course, and now the probability of success is about 95. So it's all the education that I put together. I lecture at different universities. I'm an adjunct member, so I've just been doing this for a very long time.
That's fabulous. I want to get your information. I used to work at Vanderbilt University as a learning specialist. So there's just something so energetic about campuses and universities. And well, any other questions from anybody?
I did have one more. And that is, you mentioned power naps. What is your definition of a power nap? Because I like occasionally, not occasionally, almost every day, I will just like lean back in my chair, put my feet up and fall asleep for like 5-10 minutes. And that's what I like, because if I lay down on, on the bed, I'm afraid it'll be an hour. And I then I would feel really guilty. And I feel guilty about the 5 to 10 minutes.
I think what you're doing is perfect. I'm a firm believer in that. I actually learned that from my father many years ago. He had to do it for medical reasons, but I mean, I'm trying to sleep by 9:30 at night every night because I'm up at 5 in the morning, and it's a long day. So about 2 o'clock in the afternoon, I like to take a 15-20 minute power nap, and once it do, it recharges me. And something else that I typically never do is I'll never have lunch, because if I take lunch, it makes me tired in the afternoon and I can't be productive. And so, yeah, a 20-minute, I mean, think about it. It's like lunch for you. A 20-minute nap is nothing.
Right. Yeah. So instead of lunch.
Yeah.
It's also scientific that that's actually the best kind of nap. And I can't really quote anything, but I just read it recently. That does something with the synapses and all that stuff. So you're absolutely right. So that's awesome. That's awesome. That's part of the strategy.
You don't get into the REM or anything of that type. So it's perfect.
Yeah. I get grumpy though. I'm grumpy when I fall asleep and then wake up and have to. So that's my issue. I'll work on that, but it is, that's like the answer. So you don't have to feel guilty anymore, Brian, because it's scientific and it's something you should do because it helps you refresh.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hey, Brian, do you feel guilty when you work late at night?
No.
Interesting.
Random question.
Yeah, that's an interesting way to put it.
Okay, so we're going to move on, and our next guest is me. So my name is Beth Taylor, and I'm a cognitive empathy coach. And my background includes counseling. The first part of my career, I was a therapist, and I moved to Nashville and opened a counseling center, and I worked with individuals and couples for marriage counseling. And I got tired of the men being mad at me all the time. So that's not true, but that was kind of the case. And part of that's because of the stigma with counseling. So in 2011, I went back to grad school and got my executive certificate in coaching. So I work with executives, and I use neuroscience and psychology and coaching to basically just help business leaders find more success and increase their ROI. So that's what I currently do. And today I'm going to be talking about change. So change is, my mom used to say, change is, constant. And it is. And I was at our house, we're cleaning out everything, garages and stuff. And I came across this graph book. And I had it when I was 12. I was in 7th grade, and we were all going to be graduating and going to different schools. So we brought our autograph books to school and we signed them. So I thought, I'm going to go through. And this is basically the gist of the entire book. Beth, you're so sweet. Never change. Love you. It's like, oh, that's sweet. Beth, you are so sweet. You're such a great listener. Don't ever change. That would be tragic. Okay. Beth, don't change. Please don't change. So basically that's it. And I thought, wow, at 12, we know that change is scary. And so I thought, what is it? What are the barriers to change? And what is it about it? Bottom line is change brings up fear. Change is a threat. If you look at our brains, which is one of the things I work with a lot, is our amygdala is the instinct brain. And when we come up against something or something comes to us that we are not comfortable with, or we don't know about, it feels like a threat. Our instinct brain goes, boop, dude, this is dangerous. An example would be when I was working with a client once, he was telling me this story about his mother-in-law, and he was holding his child, and the child was 18 months old, and the child had I think it was a little boy, little baby had a marble in his hand, and the mother-in-law walked in and went, gasped, and took the child and the boy and ran into the other room. And so my client was like, that was so rude. I mean, I don't think I can ever talk to her again. And I said, I think it was her instinct, because her amygdala was like, oh my gosh, this child has a marble. So that's how that works. And ultimately, and I'll get to this in just a few minutes, knowing that is what gives us the ability to face change differently. So what are some of the barriers to change? Well, anxiety, right? And we want to stay in our safety boxes. If any of you have ever watched Big Bang Theory, then you know, oh gosh, what's his name? I can't even think. I just went blank. But he wants to sit in the same part of the sofa all the time. That's his safety box. And we don't want to leave those because we're comfortable. When I'm out of town, I want to get home and I want to sit on a certain place on my sofa and turn on the news and just kind of snuggle with my dog. That's my safety box. Get out of it, it's very uncomfortable. So knowing that, again, is going to enable us to exit that safety box and see what the opportunities are ahead. And as I said, our emotions. So if we have anxiety, shame, depression, disappointment, let's say at work, there's a big change and we're just not sure about it. So all of these feelings start coming up. We feel rejected, or we're afraid we're going to feel rejected. We feel like an imposter. I can't make this change at work. They're going to know I don't know what I'm doing. We tell a false narrative to ourselves, just that. I don't know what I'm doing. And our brains don't know truth from false. So if we tell it that, that's what it believes. And just a negative mindset. Like you were saying earlier in the first speech, that negativity really promotes negativity. So those emotions get in the way of change because we have to manage them, right? It's like if you're depressed, like you were saying, that you may not want to get out of bed. So you've got to deal with that, plus the change that's going on. Another barrier is resistance. We've always got the rogue person in a company that's like, I'm not going to do it. Again, based in fear. It may not look like that. And I was one of those people when I was getting ready to graduate in college. It took me 10 years to get through college. So I was 2 semesters away. I finally found, after, 10 or 20 different degree program choices, communication. And one of the things that was taken off of the requirements was a computer course, a basic computer. But I had enrolled in it before I changed my major. And so that's when the computers were, the thing was orange and the printers went like, thick, 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 thick. So it was way back. And I just didn't really understand it. So I went to the professor and I said, I don't really think I should have to take this class because I can't imagine how computers, I would ever need to use them. So he said, well, if you can persuade me, since you're a communicator, I'll give you a B and you can go. So I did. So I resisted that. And to this very day, I get so nervous when I'm dealing with a Zoom or any kind of anything because I resisted for so many years. Like, I don't need that. Word, I don't need that. So now I'm a baby boomer who looks like, a baby boomer who doesn't know anything. Another barrier to change is that we feel like we're going to get stuck. If I make this change in the company, or if I take this promotion, what if I get stuck here and I don't know how to get out? And also just fear of failure, that I'm going to fail. And the one really big obstacle to change is that once the pressure is off, then you go back to the way it was. And as a coach, I have clients who will say to me, I thought I changed, but I really didn't. It's like, no, you've got the tools, you've got the skills, but it's so easy, especially in stress, to revert back to the old behavior. And so that's, again, where you come into the strategies of understanding the brain, because the brain has three parts. And so when you want to make a change in behavior, and it's something that's not, you're familiar with, then you really want to acknowledge, like I said a minute ago, the instinct part of the brain. What is it that's making you feel like it's a threat? And it can just be the silliest thing. It can be, we're not going to have pizza tonight. I decided we're going to have steak. And that's a true story. One time my husband did that and I was like, I was just got so discombobulated. So, that kind of change, if that kind of change can be, cause that kind of behavior, then imagine something really big. Before COVID, I used to ask people at workshops, how many of you like change? How many of you like change that you don't choose? And since COVID, I don't ask that because it sounds very condescending, like nobody chose that. But that really manifested in more anxiety and more fear of change, because that was such a big change, and it's still manifesting in business today, all the changes that came from that. So understanding that it's not really the change itself, it's the feeling that I'm going to fail, I'm going to be alone, I'm going to be whatever. And knowing that enables you to come up with strategies that work best for you, that work for your company. When you want to talk about your feelings to help you get through that part of it, you can go to a certain part of your brain, it's your neocortex, and you kind of take the feelings and you put them in a logical lens. And that's a really excellent way for leaders to lead, is through that way. Because as I mentioned earlier, natural empath, you burn out because natural empaths want to please people. And so that's another stressor, a barrier to change. It's like, what if I can't please my boss? What if I can't do that? So having said all that, it's understanding where it's coming from, the self-awareness of it, and being intentional about implementing the change. And it sounds so simple, and it's not, but it is. I think we make things when we don't understand. When we're trying to make sense of something that we don't understand, we go down rabbit holes. And that's why I get so excited about telling people about the root brain, the amygdala, because it makes sense. It doesn't matter. It could be a bill, it could be a friend, it could be a shoe. It doesn't matter. Whatever it is, it triggers you into feeling like it's a threat. And then you strategize in that mode, not really understanding that's not what you have to do. So I hope that makes sense. And that is the synopsis of change for me today. So does anybody have any questions? Okie dokie.
You fit,
All right. Huh?
this is Ray. You fit so many categories of my life getting to this point. At age 50, I found out of ADHD. And to write a book has been a terrible, terrible experience. If it wasn't for my calling, I don't think I would have had that kick in the butt, okay, that I have every
Right.
day, because
Yeah.
it's, you're to focus on writing. And in my particular situation, as far as what I wrote about, was even worse. So I see where a lot of the changes. Okay, I see a change. Okay, I'm off. I stop writing. I go there. I come back.
Right.
I get down. Another change. Boom. I can go. I can leave. It's not.
Yeah.
I'm not focused enough to stay. Ignore my problems around me to stay concentrated on writing. So
Right. The distractions. And we were actually talking about that, Brian and Chris and I, earlier, about distractions and how long it takes to get back on track. When you get distracted, which is 23 minutes. And then Brian challenged me. It's like, well, what if you get distraction by the distraction, by the distraction? I'm like, okay, I'm really confused now, but it really does take time. And if you've got ADD or ADHD, and you don't have that structure, and I'm speaking from experience, it's really difficult. I know exactly what you're saying, Ray, about that. When I'm trying to come up with a workshop idea, I'm like, why is this taking me so long? Well, I ran up to do the laundry and I just get so distracted. But it hasn't stopped you from, I'm going to go ahead and introduce you. Okay. You're next. Is that correct? Yes. Okay. So you are an award-winning, best-selling author, even though it's taken you some time to do it. and an educational coordinator of a re-entry ministry. This is so cool. And author of What Bad We Do. So today, you guys get ready. He's going to talk about problem number 8 from the book, pornography. Yes, sex sells, and it also kills. So it's such an interesting title, Ray. So take it away.
Hi. Just this past June, I finished writing my book, What Bad We Do. And I just see this. It took me 7 years, okay? It took a long time, more than I would have wanted. But now, if I had published my book 3-4 years ago, a lot of my book would have been out of touch, not have been what I need to put into it, where we're going to today. I have written 31, I call them problems, not chapters, of all the things that we do bad, from lying, swearing, bullying, human trafficking, pornography, all the things that we do bad, and they're growing, okay? There's not one that's being reduced at any time. I pick out pornography today because it's one of the most, I want to say it's an epidemic, it's a disease, it's a pandemia, because 40 million people are watching it constantly. There's 256 million website pages about pornography. There's 20 to 25% of married couples and single couples need to have X-rated videos to have sex. Otherwise, they don't have it. 1 in 7 kids are solicited online. It's hard. TikTok, okay, is rampant with pornography. Facebook has pornography. Instagram has pornography. Instagram has, I looked this up yesterday, they have a page where they do parental control. Then they also have how to find porn accounts. We're going in the wrong direction as far as how we're trying to take care of this problem. So I'm trying to bring this forward today to show that we have the demand, the supply, okay? The supply is out there as far as all the videos, okay? And we are creating the demand. Now, when I say we, babies, kids, young kids are probably innocent. A lot of us, most of us, used to be innocent, okay? But as it all grew, we're now bystanders, okay? We're now watching, okay? We can do something about it, but we're watching the problem that we're having. The bifocals, the blinders, okay, are starting to get longer because, well, we're affected by this every day. We ignore it, and so we are part of the problem. I wrote this book in order to bring out the people that are doing bad, okay, that have done all this and are forgetting about it or part of it, to make them aware of what's happening, so that they can. In my book, on the front page, on the front cover, I have with exception. With exception means we can come back and ask forgiveness. Okay, this is not meant to be. There is a God. Okay, and I don't want this to be meant to. Oh, this is only for Christians. This is for everybody. All religions. Everybody is. There's people that are not even part of religion anymore that are, part of this. Whether they were Catholic or they don't go to church anymore for some reason, or God's mad at them, or they feel guilty about what they've done, and you go to church and you're doing all these bad things, well, you stop going to church because of the guilt factor. And when I started getting too involved in this, I realized also when I was writing down the chapters, I'm guilty of some of I've watched videos, okay? Up until 2 years ago, I was watching, now I say watching, I'll say in all told 20, 30, okay? But I realized the audience, the people created and being forced into this. Then it was paid. Years ago it was paid as far as everybody was on there, the porn stars. A lot of them not being paid anymore. Okay, human trafficking has now involved these kids into pornography. I've read that even toddlers, okay, involved in pornography. So we're going very, very in the wrong direction. I brought this, so I stopped. I couldn't picture watching this anymore. For a long time, I just stopped going to church, okay? And because of my wife, okay, we got married, and that was almost 30 years ago. And I started again, so I stopped. God came back in my life. You have weak points, okay? You're gonna have weak points in your life, all right? I had mine, and I got rid of it. I thank God every day. My wife, 26 years ago, before I was ever even thought about writing a book, she bought me a medal, okay, that I've had in my pocket for 26 years. St. Gabriel. I don't know if any of you know who St. Gabriel is, but the messenger, okay, the messenger. And I had in this pocket, I just found out a year and a half, one day I said, let me read about St. Gabriel. And I said, oh my God. I said, okay, he sends messages to me all the time. Okay, he sends messages. So I have to, the kick in the butt, I finally got the book done. This came from a calling. Okay, I want to go to the calling part because I have to come back from the calling 1 week after I started writing the book. That was 1 week after I retired. They said, oh, you need a website. I never wrote a word in my life, a published word. So I said, okay, I need a website. And well, what am I going to do? 3 days. 3 days. I still have the website name, OurSoulsDirection.com. Okay. That's a long time ago. That was 7 years ago. And this is my message. I have to draw. When we come into this life, we come in with the most precious thing we'll ever own in our life is our soul. Okay. Our soul is the report card of our life here on earth. Everything you do, okay, and it's not recorded. It's there. It's a message, okay? It's a tab, it's whatever you want to call it. Because one day, when we walk up to that gate, okay, and we go, hello, I'm here, let me in. And hello, God, I'm here. He's not going to listen, okay? He's not going to listen. You haven't asked forgiveness. You've just been so belligerent about what you've done with your life. Yo, God, it's getting hot. Hey, open the door. He's not going to be there for you. So now we come to this really reason why I'm here. And it's all these people that are doing this pornography, watching it, creating it. They're not realizing. We talk about there's people on TEDx, they're all over talking about pornography. We're not talking about the kids on the other end. We've destroyed their lives, okay, because of our demand. Me, I want pornography. And you just killed somebody. Suicide, trauma that they're never going to get back, okay, you've created. So where are we going to go with this? It's growing, okay. We've watched the dark web. The dark web has a lot of this pornography stuff on it. It has a lot of other things. 9 years ago, I think it was 25 or 40%, 40 times bigger than World Wide Web. I wonder if anybody here knows how big the dark web is today. 500 times bigger than the World Wide Web. Whew. And I don't want to go on there. That's like saying, oh, I want to do cocaine. If I want to do cocaine, I know what's going to happen. So if I go on the dark web, how is it going to draw me in? So I don't go on the dark web. I don't do cocaine. I don't do drugs, but people are so susceptible today. We've come down to where we have more excuses from the time we're 5 years old, why we broke the window, and we blamed it on Jane. Okay. We started with excuses then. You get away with your first excuse, it continues. Okay. I just started a certified course on self-esteem. We have to learn. The kids today with no father or maybe no mother either in the house are not learning self-esteem. They're getting their education on the street. So I'm going from what we do what bad we do. The next book is going to come out within a few months. I can't write it. I'm going to have it ghostwritten. Why we do the bad we do. Drugs, alcohol, responsibility, compromising, negative euphoria. I just had a chapter in a book on negative euphoria. Everything we do bad, okay, from stealing, from everything, there's a euphoria. It's negative. There's no word for it. I looked up dysphoria. There's no word for negative euphoria. And it's there. Every time we go down that rabbit hole, we get drawn in farther if we don't come back from it. There's also the reasoning for going back to that. Sorry, lost my train of thought. I get going. Sometimes I go faster than my mouth, than the brain can catch up. Boy, never has this done. I have to come back to where we're going with the people that I need to talk to. I've also been just recently. I spoke with Jack Canfield on Hollywood Live. On there, he was said that Ray and I were aligned. A lot of things we have in common. So I'm here. I'm here for this, to teach, to learn myself. Okay, it's a long road. Okay, there's a lot of obstacles I know I have in front of me with this. I know where I'm taking this. It's just we need to remember what bad we do. We're going in the wrong, we're going the wrong direction. It's hard. I want to, maybe I can't make the 15 minutes today, but there's some,
I've got some questions. Well, Ray, let me ask you, is it okay if I go ahead and ask you a few questions?
Please. I'm sorry, Beth.
Okay, first of all, what are you, jaw-dropping topic. I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm so glad you brought it up. And there's just a few things, and I also, it took you 7 years, and I love that because I've struggled with the same thing. I work with on empathy and cognitive empathy, and I'm like, what's keeping me behind? And it's the same thing. It's like, oh, I didn't realize I had so much more to research and learn before I launched, my brand or whatever. And also I was thinking negative euphoria. Would you say maybe that's the thrill and the endorphins are released? That it may be negative, but it's still endorphins, like because of the thrill. Here's my question. It's 1.5 questions. We were on a Zoom with a church group for career transition. And in the middle, here comes this bouncing man doing, on his back with the thing. And we were all like, oh my gosh, so that just injected itself into our Zoom. And then I'm wondering if I've been on a website before that's maybe about coaching. Okay. And I'll leave the phone and I'll come back and there's some kind of porn link going. And I'm like, so how does that happen?
You never, as far as we don't come back from the rabbit hole because we're never caught. Okay. So we just continue. You have to realize where you've been, where you have, and to catch yourself. I've talked to many prisoners, okay, and the only time they got caught for a lot of things, but there were a lot of things they didn't get caught for, and the only time they came back is God came in and said, "Whoa, okay," and usually it's when they're older, okay, but God came in and said, it's time, okay, and they come out and they stay out. One gentleman had his daughter killed while he was in prison. And he asked the warden to put himself in solitary. And he said, "What happened?" He says, "I'm going to hurt somebody if I don't go in. If you don't take me out of the population."
Oh,
2 months he sat in solitary. He came out. Well, a year later, he got out of jail. And while he was in there, God came and said, "Forgive the person that killed your daughter." If you never forgive, you're going to carry it. You have to end up forgiving. It's hard. There's how many people I use the word pond scum, okay, to cover a lot of people that are doing bad. I just picked it up, I don't know, a couple of months ago, and I looked it up. Pond scum is in the dictionary, okay? It's online. And it means that detest actions by people, that we call pond scum. And can somebody not call somebody pond scum that changed their life, killed their relative, been raped by somebody? That word is the deviation, the unforgiveness is always going to be there. So we have to catch ourselves. Okay, do we want to? Yeah. Okay, are we? No. That it's hard. So maybe that's can help you with what you wanted to say. Or
Well, what was I? Now I just went blank. I'm like, what was I just going to ask him? You do seem very, your emotions are really raw about this. It seems like you're really invested and have a passion, it seems like, about this.
but wait to hear me talk about the other 31.
Ooh, okay. Yeah, this is good for
This one
today.
speaks
Wow.
emotions. Pornography
Yes,
speaks
it
emotions.
does. And it's just so, it evokes such, it's just so grotesque. It's awful.
We're never caught.
Um,
Okay, we're never
mm,
caught.
ugh.
Okay,
Does anyone else have a question?
I do.
Yeah.
So first of all, Raymond, I want to applaud you for having the courage to bring this up, because seriously, it's something that people don't want to talk about. And I went and saw the movie Sound of Freedom a couple of weeks ago, or a week ago or so, and it's about human trafficking, and it's not a fun topic at all, but it's really, I think it's a really important message that they have. No matter what your religious beliefs are, whether you agree with porn or not, I think that no one can agree with human trafficking. I don't know how anyone could be for it. And I was asking myself, okay, how does someone get into this? How do they start down that path? And I watched a documentary after watching the movie about Tim Ballard, who was the man that the movie's about. And he said that what happens is men get hooked on porn, and then what they are watching in pornography doesn't do it for them anymore. That's not giving them the excitement. So they start watching worse and worse stuff, and it gets to the point of they're watching porn that involves children. And then it gets to the point where that's not enough just watching. They have to experience it with the children. So then they end up, buying a child for this. And it's super, super sad. And it's just horrible that our world has come to this. I mean, to this point. And I know people think that pornography is innocent, but it's not. It's how many of these people get started, is with pornography.
2 years ago, I met Mr. Ballard in Hollywood, and it was just getting about where they were thinking about the movie. And I met him. I talked to him in the back. Everybody was swarming him on the stage, so I met him in the parking lot. I knew he was going to have to leave. And I live in Costa Rica, and the thousands of men that come here every year to go fishing. Okay, it's not about fishing. It's the little cabin, okay, that they bought the children, the young women, okay, into the cabin to have their fling, their thing, with them. They were bought, okay. They got paid, but they were bought very cheaply. And men do that in so many countries. He said, thanks for reminding me about that. So, whether he did anything, I think he was well on his way from what he was doing already. But all around the world, guys go fishing. They're not really there to fish. Okay. Yeah. Okay. I caught a fish. I got a picture of it. They're there for the other part, the drinking and the sex, the women, the girls. They don't want women. They want girls. So let's hope.
Okay. Anybody else? Okay. All right. Thank you so much. I'm sure that took a lot of just emotional energy to do. And here's my
Getting
dog
used to it.
Bear. Just wanted to see. Yeah. So thank you so much. And I look forward to your next book. It's awesome.
Thank God.
Okay. So we've got a maverick in the house. Paul Fink is the Maverick Millionaire. And he's one of the most foremost authorities in business and personal development. So, okay, so listen to this. So over 3 decades of sales, he has moved over $20 million in real estate transactions, sold over 30 million informational products, and ran over 250 live events. So you've been busy. You've worked with some of the best known speakers, and you work with small businesses and entrepreneurs to help them create an abundant future. So if you desire a real change, I say listen up, and I'm going to be one of the biggest listeners on how to change your life and move forward for a great future. Here's Paul. Thank you so much.
Hi, guys. And based on the conversations that we've been having, I could go 2 different ways here. And I put it in the chat. Would you rather me talk about controlling the chaos? So more on a personal development and business development realm, or would you rather talk to me more specifically about how to monetize your speaking business? I could go either way. Which would you prefer? Put either a C or a $sign in the chat. And I talk about, while you're doing that, I do talk about my background is applied. I am the oddball combination of applied psychology. I was trained as a clinical psychiatrist. I also went on to study neurolinguistic programming, certified in that, hypnotherapy, certified in that, and 36 years now as an entrepreneur. And so I am that interesting combination of applied psychology into our world, as well as really hard and fast business success methodology. And I combine all that in all my training, which is why I can go either way where you want, and we've got a split decision. So I'll see how I can do a little bit of both. So let me dive right in then. You know, our business world and as an entrepreneur, we are inundated by our emotions and by our pulling of one way or the other. All the different components of where we are in our world changes every day, to the point of Beth, change is constant. And the more you get used to or know how to manage that change, the more successful you're going to be. The more you get clear with how to organize both your internal as well as your external, managing that, the more successful you're going to be. And so there's a couple components of that realm, and I'll share, and I'm going to pop. Am I able to share my screen, Brian? I'm going to pop in and out of a quick PowerPoint just by touching on to a couple different things. And
Sorry, I forgot to make you a co-host.
It's okay.
Doing it now.
I can take it. We're good. And maybe. No, still not showing up. And let's see if that, yes. Now we're operational. And so a couple things, and I'm actually gonna fast track a couple things. Understand as a speaker and trainer, and this is really key for my story, and you understand where I am. In 2007, I became a speaker, and I became a speaker after a few years of focusing in on real estate, and I started focusing in on wealth building strategies because, well, I had 6 children, 3 sets of twins. So I had this family of 8 that I was the sole income producer of, that 6 children under 6 years old. And it propelled me to focus in on how to build wealth. Well, if you don't know the 2 different strategies, 2 major number 1 and number 2 strategies in building wealth are, one is real estate. So I took a couple of years, deep dove in real estate, and then people started tapping me about training them on how I did and how I created so many millions in real estate. And so then I started looking at speaker world, and I remember one seminar I was in, and I'm the product of the product. I was back of the room buying everything. I'm all these seminars. And I remember one guy in one seminar, he asked the speaker, well, if you know real estate, you know how to build wealth, you know all these things, What are you doing here as a speaker? Like, what the heck, man? And really challenging the speaker on stage. And the speaker on stage just held his composure and just said, do the math. You know how much you paid to be here. There's 500 people in the room. Do the math. And I went, aha. The number 2 wealth building strategy in the world is information marketing. And so, which includes speaking, coaching, training. And with that, I did a deep dive. That gentleman became my mentor, started working with him, and for the next couple of years, learned my craft as far as how to be a speaker, coach, trainer, and then went on and did a whole lot on top of that I'll talk about in a minute. However, in 2007, when I began, I knew nothing of this industry other than being in an audience listening to people. I didn't know anything about the business of speaking. I had never sold anything from stage in my life, even though I had been in sales for about 18 years at that time. And I was scared to death. This isn't the person that I started with. This is a different person. Talk about change. I was in constant change mode because I had to grow, had to develop. I had to get past the fears and blocks. I literally, when I say I was scared to death, my first couple times on stage, I froze to the tune of not being able to say a word. My throat would close up, sweating, stomach cramps, shaking. I was scared to death. Fortunately, the people that put me on stage knew that, never gave me a microphone, just introduced my name and said, talk to Paul in the back of the room. And so that worked. And over the next year, I got desensitized. I got highly trained on how to do this and began to get comfortable with the prospect of standing up in front of a group. But I began scared to death. And so I really relate to people that are just getting started, that are really not stepping into their own power, because that's where I was. I'd been living in imposter syndrome for a long time. I had put up walls and blocks saying I was acting as if instead of being in any way, shape, or form. And so that really created a difference in how I was showing up. Once I became clear with this imposter syndrome, began to break down the walls so I could be much more of who I am, much more myself, and create a magnitude of results. Since 2007, oh, and by the way, I had no recognizable name, I had no list, and I had no experience as a speaker. This is really key because I want to teach you a couple pieces of methodology on how to really create your existence without any of these things in your world. Years later, sold tons, and now it's over $50 million in real estate, 250 boot camps, consistently producing, or 50 million in informational products, and consistently producing high-end results, selling high-end programs, as well as a full gamut up and down the spectrum of pricing, and doing what most people don't do. And let's see if my and of course something is just froze on me. Wait. There we go. And so I want to talk to you about, I'm going to unshare. There we go. Doing what most people don't do. And I started applying the psychology of and working on the internal scope. And here's a couple things I want you to take charge of to control the focus. One, and I'm a maverick, by the way, so I do everything a little bit different than most. So instead of going A, B, C, D, we're going to go D, C, B, A. So D, and I want you to follow along here. D is decide. You've got to decide what you want. You want to control the chaos. One of the biggest challenges that people have is that they're essentially tapping into their GPS system and following it exactly without ever telling the GPS system where they're going. And you go, well, that's impossible. Exactly. And that's what most people do in their life. is that they're running around in circles because they've never actually decided where they want to go. And if you never decide where you're going, you're already there. And yet then people say, but I don't want to be here. I want to be somewhere else. You got to decide what that is. You got to decide where that is. What is it that you absolutely want? Now, there's a whole lot of things. People say, oh, I want financial freedom. I want happiness. I want joy. And it's like the infamous beauty pageant. Oh, I want world peace. Well, that is not the way it has to happen. What you must do is get crystal clear and make sure, and here's one of the things that really helps people, put a number in every goal that you have. A number makes it trackable, and it also makes it objective versus subjective. As soon as you put a number to it, you can't change the definition of what it looks like. 3 sales is 3 sales. Publishing your book. So 1 book is the number, but making sure a definitive, for instance, if you're working on your book, sending my book to the editor complete. That is a definitive line in the sand. That can't be a subjective line. Well, I kind of sent it to him. You either sent it or you didn't. So something where we can actually draw a line in the sand, and usually a number in it works really well. So look for your principal targets or your goals to have numbers in them. Decide what you want. For most people, 3 to 5 major decisions in their life is all they can manage. So decide of 3 to 5 major rocks in your life that you want and focus in on those. You finish one, replace it with another. Now, here's the second piece that's really key, and this is the C, is commit. You've got to commit to each one of your targets, each one of your destinations that you've decided. You've got to commit, because one of the challenges is that people go, I poll people all around the world, I want $1 million. And they're like, yeah. Are they committed to be millionaires? No, the next day they sleep in, they go drinking with their buddies, they go play around on the golf course. They do nothing to create their $1 million status, but they still the next night will be like, yeah, I want to be a millionaire. And they're not committed, right? So on every one of your goals, you want to go through and rate it on a scale of 1 to 10, how committed you are to do whatever it takes to achieve that goal, whatever it takes. And of course, legal, moral, and ethical, we'll take that as an assumptive. Only whatever it takes, and whether that means you go the distance. And like tomorrow, I'm traveling across the country to speak at another gig. Well, I do what it takes to create and sustain my business model. Do what it takes and commit to it. So a level 10. If you do not have a level 10 commitment to your goal, you have 2 choices. Lower your goal or raise your commitment. That's it. Most people go, no, it's fine. I've got an 8 commitment to this goal, and then they never achieve it. And then they beat themselves up every day because they didn't achieve their goal. You weren't committed to it in the first place. Give it up, move on. Find the things that you're highly committed to and stick to that, and watch what happens with your momentum. B is your belief system. You've got to believe. And when I say belief system, I don't mean just believing yourself, although that is highly important. You've got to believe in your product. You've got to believe in your service. You got to believe in your company. You've got to believe that that you have purposeful intent with everything that you're doing. You've got to believe at a cellular level. And last but not least is the action mode. You've got to take action in everything that you do. All of this training is all well and good. However, unless you put it into applied action mode, behavior that makes a difference, habits that make a difference, you'll still in a year from now be wishing, oh, if only I had, if only I was, if only I could. You've got to get into action mode. So DCBA, decide, commit, believe, and act. The rest of the story, and I want to get to some of the number game, you want to be, and I've been able to build up, and I focus in on scalable and sustainable business. scalable and sustainable business. And in the speaker world and in coaching, I've been able to do that and built up a multi-million-dollar practice that over the last 16 years. And I've been speaking at this level for that length of time. We work with coaches, speakers, trainers in helping them do the same thing. How do you build up a program and a package that works, that is sellable, sustainable, scalable? How do you market that in a scalable, sustainable way? How do you promote it? One of the benefits I have is I've done over 250 boot camps. Part of those were within the realm of having a speaker support business. I ran a speaker support business for 10 years. I founded, and the key component is it was all word of mouth. I started off being trained by a high-level speaker that then introduced me to the speaker world, and I was the guy for most of the top-level real estate gurus in the country. And so I would bring in the sales team, redesign their programs, their packages, their agendas, and then bring in the sales team during their events to sell them, and ran all their numbers. The key component when you have 250 boot camps under your belt is that you're able to tear apart and put back together some of the top programs in the country and really understand which works and which doesn't. What components of that were sellable and what really didn't matter. What was it that was really working? And so one of the things that most people do is they've got models that don't work. Most of us in coaching, we have one package. A lot of times that's how we start. Here's the package. And unfortunately, one package does not a business make. Maybe if you're pet rock, but other than that, one program is not going to sustain a growing, sustainable business. It'll be a flat trajectory that you're on or slight incremental. And most of us want a skyscraper. So we've got to design some strategies for what I call an ascension model is one of the key models that work, where you've got 3 programs, for instance, 3 different programs. Think of Goldilocks and the 3 bears. This has got to be small, medium, and large. There's got to be an ascension to the next level. And how you design those to create a magnitude. Some people that have been in business for a while, they have this program, that program, this program, and that they designed over time because they heard a speech that said, oh, you need more than one program. And then, of course, it's all disjointed. So a clear ascension model, and I work with our clients to pull it back and then put it back into place so that everything is congruent from one step to the next. You also want to focus in on a buyer's journey, how you're starting them and where you're guiding them to the end game, and what that looks like, so that buyer's journey be really clear with how people are engaging with you and how they stop engaging with you. And one other thing is the interesting component about price and the psychology of pricing. And I'm going to say this real quick, and then I'm going to open up for some Q&A to get into anything that you specifically want. And for all of you that are here, you want to talk further, maverickoffer.com is absolutely the place to go. We'll put it in the chat in a moment. Maverickoffer.com. You're going to get a consult with me to talk further and to go into detail. And so you're going to go right to my calendar to schedule a time. You're also going to get a download, one of the best books I've written. It's a multimedia book on time management, time prioritization. One of the biggest challenges with every entrepreneur in the world is I don't have enough time. I can't squeeze it all in. I don't know what to do. I don't know how to shun the people that I don't want to speak to, yet open up for the people that do. I don't know what to do with my phone, as we were talking about earlier. All that is in there, and recognize I've got multiple different businesses. I also have 6 children and a passionate relationship with my wife of 36 years. My youngest children are 21. They're now 21, 22, and 27, 2 of each. So I've gone through the test of time. I know what I'm talking about with time management. I've managed it all and still created. So pricing and the psychology of pricing. Here's one of the key components with pricing. Most people are afraid to charge more. And recognize, and this is just one piece of the whole training on psychology of pricing, value is determined by price. So you want to get clear with your pricing and you think it's best for your clientele to lower your price, you are automatically broadcasting that you are of lower value. And they will treat you as such, both in their engagement as well as whether they buy from you or not. We just was working with an organization where they were doing webinars and events like this, and they were bringing people on. And so the keynote speaker was selling, most of their people that they brought on were selling anywhere from $99 to $297, right? Nice low end range. Everybody was happy and they had moderate sales. They shifted the whole matrix and everybody started pricing at $1,500 to $2,500 for their program and package, and their sales went through the roof. They recognized that their clientele that they had cultivated it was a sophisticated group, and they looked at the $97 product as junk. And so no one was buying it because it's junk. It's like, yeah, whatever. I can get that at 5 and dime. I'm not bothering. Once they elevated the pricing to be packages of $1,500, $2,000, $2,500, well, they're like, oh, well, now we're talking. And they're literally from tens of thousands of dollars they sold hundreds of thousands of dollars. We're talking dramatic difference, like to the tune of 10 times. And they raised their price, not lowered. That price is a component of value. Pay attention. What are you broadcasting to your audience? Are you broadcasting that you're less than, or are you broadcasting that you're of value? And I'm Paul Fink, the Maverick Millionaire. I give you strategic coaching across the board. I've got an event that is all around the country, 3-day boot camp that is all around the country. The next one is September 8th through the 10th. I would love to see you there. You're interested in that, grab a meeting with me and I'll text over to you some details on that, and we'll take it from there.
Oh my gosh. Okay, where do I sign up? I'm looking forward to the link. Wow. I tell you.
MaverickOffer.com, time management, download, and you'll be able to have an engagement with me. And I'm pretty free with my time, and I say that with respect. But I love to do what I do, which is helping people see the aha and get moving forward on their potential.
Yeah, I mean, and you can tell, people will say that to me, you can tell you really like what you do. It's like, you can tell that you really love what you do, and the energy. One of the things I wanted to say about pricing is I started out at like $50 when I went to coaching from therapy. Now I'm at 300, and that transition was very difficult. And my brother, who's also an entrepreneur, is a landscape designer. And I remember he did the same thing. And now he does jobs that are like 200 grand for the front, part of the house. But there's a transition, and almost it seemed like there was a downtime to get that audience going. Does that make sense? Did that occur to you? Or is there a way to fill that gap?
I am a maverick, and I've been that way for 36 years or longer. And one of the things I've learned is that linear process is what we teach, especially in the United States. However, it is not necessary. So, a kid in 3rd grade could learn geometry. Well, no, you have to wait till 7th. So a person just starting out doesn't need to go through the pain of change over several years to move from $50 to $300. They can start at $300. No one knows. Because here's the thing. How many of your clients that you're selling at $300 knew you when you were selling at $50?
Yeah, they didn't.
So what difference does it make? Realize that everybody that buys is brand new. So if they're new to you, they don't know what kind of history you've had. They don't know that you had to work your way up to 300. No, just start at 300. Your audience will have no idea.
Yeah. All right.
And so part of that is because so much of it is our chit chat, has nothing to do with the audience. And yet we all make the excuses that it has everything to do with them. It has to do with our own chit chat. So let's fortify our resistance to that chit chat And that's what I do with our clients so that they can step into it. One of my new coaching clients, we built a woman, Demi. She built a coaching program around accountants. She had been working for her parents who were accountants, knew how to build the business, but felt like she didn't have a license. She didn't have the confidence. She was being paid salary by her parents, and that was all she was ever worth. We built up her confidence, built up her understanding of how to do it, stepped into it. She started off with a $5,000 coaching program. It was one of our clients. She choked on the number. She choked on it multiple times. Then she got a sale. Now, this was over about a month or two. She got a sale. Now, if you can imagine, you've been selling things and you're expecting that you're worth $200, and now you sell $5,000. You go, oh my God.
Yeah, it's like, yeah.
Over the last 3 years, we've grown her practice so that now her coaching program is 24,000, 24 and change, 24,995, so $25,000.
Yeah.
We
It's
grew
incredible.
it, and step by step, and every step of the way it was, all right, 5 to 7, 7 to 9, 9 to 12, 12 to 17. And we kept moving the needle for her as she got comfortable being able to voice it, which had everything to do with internal, not the client base. Obviously, now it's a $500,000 and moving to $1 million practice.
Wow.
And it was all over the last 3 years where she couldn't even stomach saying 5,000. It's their internal process, has nothing to do with your audience. You
Right,
know
you're right.
people that you feel are dumber than you, aren't delivering as much value, aren't caring for the clients as much. They're charging a quadruple what you're charging. And you know that. That's where you start going, all right, what's going on? And if you don't, and here's the thing, we're not talking about just focusing on money or just being money hungry. It is about, if you don't figure out the system, if you don't figure out how to create a scalable, sustainable model, you're going to be out of business. There's no way you're going to last 10 years, let alone 15 or 20 or 30, to really serve the people in the way you want. And that's the equation. So get clear with what the model looks like so you have money for growth and you can actually tap into and share with the world at a high level. And that's so important. You know, when you're low price, you'll be able to serve 5, 10, 15, 20 people, 50 people. When you get clear with being able to build a real business, you're able to serve thousands and tens of thousands, if not millions.
Yeah. Wow, I'm motivated. Certainly. Thank you so much. Any other questions?
And absolutely go to maverickoffer.com. It brings you right to my calendar, right to the download. No charge for any of that. And I'm here for you. So come and join me.
I'm going to sign up as soon as we're done here. Seriously. Thank you so much. That was so great.
Yes,
So,
pleasure.
Brian, did you have any questions?
Nope.
Yep, okay,
need to move
good.
on.
I mean,
Very
I've got
good.
the endorphins just like, whoa, for me. So, and thank
Anybody
you for
else?
this link.
Oh, you're very welcome.
Okay, well,
Pretty good. Anybody have any questions? We're here, and build up your business. Know that everything that you want is within your power. Never give up. Keep putting one foot in front of the other, and know there's a solution to every challenge. Part of our
Yay!
methodology.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, so I'm going to introduce you. Okay.
Okay.
And I want to say I know you already, but
Yes.
I was looking through your information, and I would say you were a great example of the gig economy, right? I mean, you are considered top talent. You are a motivational speaker, life coach, and you're a caseworker for the state of Michigan, right? And you've
Yes.
worked with offenders.
Yes.
You're always interested in being a radio host. I was a news reporter once on the radio.
Really?
And what I love, I'm in Nashville, okay? And you are a singer. What is it?
Songwriter, yeah.
A female indie artist. And I'm married to someone who looks for talent. So you should come to Nashville. And
you
with
know
that,
what? That's gonna be on my bucket list, bro.
Good. Serious. I'm really serious. We work with all kinds of artists, new artists, and they perform live. And so I told them about you.
Really?
So yes, I did. So take it away. Sing it away.
Okay, thank you, Beth. Okay. So the interesting topic today because it actually is a testimony as well. So I'm talking about witchcraft, family curses, and hexes, um, and spiritual warfare. I don't know if anyone familiar with any of that, um, but I was personally a a victim of someone put a hex on me, and I wasn't aware of it until um, what my to God brought me my fiance, and he got me back in church. Got me back with God the way I was supposed to. And I knew everything in my life was not going. It was just going down. I was losing so much, and no matter how hard I worked, I kept losing. And I'm like, something is not right. Everything I kept failing at everything, and so when I went back to God and fully saw and really received Him, He showed me exactly who it was that did it to me. So I did more research on it to help others if they might be a part of a hex. Because there's a lot of witchcraft going on out here. And I'm going to share some things with you guys. And once we're done, I'm going to tell you to do your own research because you never know. You could have been a part of it or, going through that. So I have um, signs like if you have a witchcraft, somebody might did a hex on you or witchcraft. Your business failures is one of them. Like that's one of the signs is business failure. No matter how hard you try, business failure. Um, so then someone came to me, a pastor by name Derek Prince. He found out about it and started to preach about it. Pastor Derek Prince, Derek, last name Prince, and he said he gave just 7 signs that you might be under a family curse. This is going to be signs of family curses that I'm going to give you. That he said if you have one or more of them, you might be aware that you could be under a family curse because it go very deep. It can start from your ancestors. So one of the signs he gave were mental or emotional breakdowns, like not just you, just in your family. He's like, because at that's not a natural thing. That's a natural thing as human vessels. That is not natural. Like if you get that through your whole family, more than likely that's one of the signs you may be on the family curse. Not guaranteed, but just a sign. Number 2, repeated chronic sicknesses in your family. That could be another sign that your family could be under a curse. Number 3, hold on, I'm sorry, you guys. Female problems, meaning not as far as like unable to bear children or always having not having abnormal menstrual cycles, and that is not a godly natural thing. We are supposed to bear children as women. So if you find that it's always happening in your family, that's another one of the signs that you could be under a family curse. And then we have number 4. It is, hold on. Number 4 is breakdown of marriages, failed marriages in your family. Like just very unfair, like just breakdowns of marriages, breakdowns of relationship with your children. Like if you find that that's always happening in your family, it could be a sign of another sign of a family curse. Um, then we also have financial insecurity. No, financial insufficiency. that is like, we know about poverty and we know that it's hard sometimes. But he said, but if it's always hard for you, if you can never get up off your feet, if you always struggling and scrambling, that could be a sign of a curse, that you always financially insufficient. Can everyone still hear me? Hello? Can everyone still hear me?
Yeah.
Yep, we can hear
Yeah.
you.
I'm sorry. Can y'all hear me though? Okay.
Yeah.
Another
Yeah, I
sign.
can hear you.
Okay, another sign is number 6, accident prone. If you always have, like, you're always hurting yourself, you're always the one with the cracked ankle or anything that just always, you always injured, and that's a big sign that you might be on a family curse when you accident prone. That is not a natural human thing to be accident prone. That is a sign that you might be, that's another sign you might be under the curse. And then we have the last one he put, but it was more, but he gave us 7. Number 7 was history of suicide and unnatural deaths in your family. Like, and I'm aware of that because some of my friends have nothing but deaths in their family. And I said, did you ever question that? They was like, we just thought it was, we never thought about that. I said, well, you need to look deep and find out what is causing your family to have all these deaths. That's not natural. So they start digging and learning, like, oh, I think I might have a curse on me. And I said, well, you need to go to God, because he's going to show you, and you keep praying, you go to God, he's going to show you where it came from and who did it. So yeah, but personally, me, it wasn't a family curse, it was a actual hex that someone put on me so that I can fail at everything I did, no matter how hard I tried. So I had to do this speech because I don't know if anybody probably ever wondered, like, okay, why this is happening to me? God, why is this happening? And you don't know it's not God, because God wants you to be successful, healthy, and wealthy. That's his prosperity. He wants you to have prosperity and be in good health. If you find out that that's not happening, I don't care how hard you try, you got to look deep and find out exactly what is going on. So being that I was able to catch it early, I was able to break out of that hex that she had on me. She had a hex on me to lose everything, so I was losing weight out of nowhere. I had lost a lot of weight. I wasn't even working out. I was like, what, you losing weight? I said, I noticed that. Then I started losing my hair. Then I was losing money. I was losing everything, and they was like, you probably, somebody got something on you. And I said, I know, I just don't know where to go. And God showed me who it was. They wanted me to lose everything so that I wouldn't succeed and live my purpose. And I would just thank God that he brought me my fiance to bring me back to God, to show me who it was. And I needed to share this with you guys. I don't know if it's going to be like 15 minutes or not, but I know I had to speak on it because this is deep. And a lot of people are unaware. They're walking around here and you are sitting next to demonic spirits, people that's in your life that don't want you to succeed. And they're going to try to do everything to stop you to succeed. So, Beth, Brian, I
Well,
just
I
had
have
to.
got something. Yeah, this is fascinating. My mom, she passed away in 2018, but she used to raise her hands in the house and go, "May no weapon formed against us prosper," and do the scripture, the helmet of salvation, all of that, the armor of God.
Yes.
So yeah, she taught us early on about that kind of stuff. So it
Yes.
is spiritual warfare,
It's
I mean, you
very
can read
real.
about it.
It's
Yeah,
very real.
yeah,
So that's why, like, when I move into new homes, I bless them,
yeah,
because a
yeah,
lot of
that
people
makes
leave
sense.
they leave entities, and a lot of people, they conjure up things, and
Yeah,
they play with
you're
Ouija
looking for the
boards,
light.
and
Yeah, yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
and then you move into that home not knowing, like, what's still there.
Right, right. I totally get what you're saying. I mean, yeah, I was brought up with that kind of information.
And
Um,
it's deeper than that. So I did not know that. I never been into
yeah.
anything like this in my life. Never.
So yeah, I mean, and I can see how emotional it is for you.
Yeah.
So you want to share with others, is that like, so that you
Yes.
can help them? Yeah. Okay. That's awesome.
Yes.
Any other questions? Yeah, let's get some questions.
Whew. It's bad, but yes.
So
It is
Crystal, I have
deep.
to
Yeah, I
tell
think, yeah. Go ahead, Brian.
Crystal, I have to tell you something that just happened.
Yeah.
I wasn't paying attention to what you were saying because I just got a text from my brother,
Okay.
and he was actually telling me about how my dad, who just built a lake cabin for our
Okay.
family so that we can spend time together, he actually did what you just said. He prayed and had a dedication of that house. And I'm
Yes.
reading the dedication, and so I'm kind of like in tears, and I missed what you were saying, and now I was like, wow, how interesting that you were talking about blessing your house,
Yeah, it was
Yes.
and
aligned.
I just got a text about that. So
That
Yes.
is cool. That's cool stuff.
You
Yeah.
have to, because you don't know what other people are leaving behind, and your house could be.
Well, and
Uh,
it's a, I was going to say it's an industry. Bless this house. I mean, that is something people do because for a reason, right?
yeah, a lot of people do it and not know the reason behind why you have to. Because a lot of people can move into homes and have all the problems in the world and break-ins and like, why is all this happening to me in this house? And thinking like, oh, it was just coincidence. It's not that many coincidences in the world, and a lot of people need to do research on that. It's not that many coincidences. So when you find things that's constantly happening to you, and it is not good, that's not normal. Because I was getting into car accidents out of nowhere. My car had been hit so many times. And I kept wondering, like, she put a hex on me to lose my car, to lose my home. I was losing money, and then I was like struggling to keep my house. It been that bad, and my car been hit so many times, and out of nowhere, and it was like a hit and run. But I don't know what was going on. So my car was hit again about 6 months ago for the third time, and they said it was going to be total. But then one of my guardian angels, and that's real too, we got guardian angels that watch us over and protect us. The guy told me at the collision shop that it was going to be a total loss, but the guardian angel from Progressive said no, fix her car. They spent $10,000 to get my car back, to fix
Wow.
my car. That was one of my guardian angels, because I
Yeah.
kept seeing the number 1111, and that was a sign of a guardian angel.
Wow, I
So
didn't know that.
yeah, if you see 1111, you have a guardian angel watching over you.
Wow, that's cool.
Yeah, yeah.
When you talk about a hex, I think of words. Like if someone is saying bad words about you and throwing them into the air, words are powerful. It's like,
It's deeper than that.
yeah, yeah,
They
okay.
actually have to go.
But
They
yeah,
actually have to do
witchcraft, I do know that. Yeah.
yeah. And so I knew a lot of coworkers kept saying they girlfriends were just reading witchcraft books, and they thought it was just something they do. They were like, but then they were like, no, they are actually using witchcraft to ruin people's lives. And I was like,
No.
once I found that, yeah. And so, and everybody was, and so this has just been a big talk. It was a big talk on the radio about 2 months ago, because a guy called in anonymously because he was scared for his life, because he like, I think my girl is a witch and she practiced witchcraft.
Wow.
And
Right.
yes, so it was this big topic on 1075. It was this big thing, and everybody started calling in because they was going through stuff too. Like, wait a minute. And so now it brought alarms to people, like, I've been going through stuff too. And so my ex fiance, he was like, you know what? I told him about it, and he said, you know what? I think I have been too. He said, all my cars been getting messed up. He said, then I got out. He said, I walked outside my door, and it was a dead raven at my doorstep. And he said, I had just started dating this girl, and he said, guess what her name is? I said, what? He said, Raven. And he's like, she practiced that. And he was like, all my cars? I said, I noticed all your cars are messed up every time you get a new one. He said, I know. It's like ever since he met her. So I told him to go to God, and he said, well, can you pray for me? Because I was going to church that day. He's like, can you pray for me? And I said, I definitely will, because it's real. It's bad. It's worse
Absolutely.
now. It's worse now than I have ever seen it. And so people just using it as if they just drinking water.
Yeah.
And
Yeah. That's terrible. That's terrible. It's scary. It scares me.
it's very scary. That's why I said I had to speak on it and continue to speak
Yeah.
on it, because it's some people lost their lives over a hex.
Yeah.
Because they didn't know what was going on.
Right.
They lost their lives
Self-awareness.
over hex.
Awareness. Yeah.
Yeah, so
I don't want
have
to follow up.
to.
Does anyone else have any questions?
But all I want to say is this:
Okay.
keep blessing your homes, keeping God in your life, stay prayed up, because you don't know who's out here using it against you. It's very
That's
bad.
right. You're
out here.
right. Thank you, Crystal. Thanks. I mean, that's a great reminder. Seriously, it's just it's a scary world right now. I mean, it really is.
Very
There's so much hate.
scary. It's very
So,
scary.
yeah.
Yes, I had to share that with you guys, and I'm
Yeah.
gonna keep sharing it.
Um, Good. I hope I see you next time, because I saw you last time. This was fun.
I had to keep.
You were the host last time.
Yes,
Yeah.
I say Beth hosting it. Yes. Oh, I hate I
Thanks so
missed it because I had so
much.
much to do.
Yeah.
Going through all of that. I had, that I had so much to do, be coming out of that hex to get my life back on track. And
Yeah.
that's why I was late. And I didn't get a chance to hear your whole show, but I was so happy to get a chance to speak.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm so glad I apologize. I didn't know that you had made it on, made it. So
Yeah.
I'm so glad that yeah, that's great.
I'm glad.
Okay. So, Brian, let me try this again. I'll pass it over to you as we wrap up.
There we go. Have to unmute. All right. Well, thanks everyone for being here. And I especially want to thank Beth for hosting and speaking as well. She did double duty. I never like to do that. So congratulations to her. Thanks to Thomas, Raymond, Paul, and Crystal. And our next virtual summit will be on Thursday, September 14th. So hope to see you all there. And
Yeah, thank
invite
you.
anyone else who you think should be here to come join us.
Yeah, everyone was so great. Thank you so much, everyone. Thank you.
Thank you again for having me, Brian. Thank you, Beth.
Thanks, Brian.
Bye-bye.
Thank you, Beth.
Thanks, Brian.
And sounds like we'll be talking soon.
Yes, and Brian, I want to talk to you too.
Yes.